Hello everyone and welcome back to the Knitting Texan podcast. My name is Rin, also known as Knitting Texan on Ravelry, and I'm coming to you from a small town in Texas where I'm from and where I live with my family. So, last podcast was a little weird. It actually, when I uploaded it to YouTube, it cut off 5 minutes before it was over, and I didn't notice until days after I'd already uploaded it, and I just didn't feel right uploading it again, and then it was a whole mess. You didn't miss much in the last 5 minutes, so it was basically just continuing talking about my blanket and thanking you guys for your support. So that was probably the most important part. Was just wanting to say thank you for continuing to watch my videos and for being so patient during the time that I was gone for exams and stuff. And I just really enjoyed interacting with you guys after last episode. I mentioned what Hoki Locatelli says in one of her episodes. She said that after she records, she just immediately wants to record again because of all of her subscribers' support, and I feel the same way. And then, you getting to the first week, when you have a bi-weekly podcast, every 2 weeks, you get to the first week and you're like, it's so slow to get to the first Saturday, and you're like, okay, I've only got one more week and then I can finally record again. And then you get to the Tuesday after and you're like, wait a minute. That was last Saturday. So anyways, thank you guys so much for your support and for continuing to watch my videos even during my absence. And thank you to all the new people coming. I've had quite a few new subscribers recently, and so welcome. And so yeah, I have quite a light episode today, I feel, so I'm going to kind of talk more about my stash and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different this time. Also, if you hear doggy noises, I do have 2 dogs. I only have 1 dog in here right now, and he's on his bed now. So hopefully he won't make too much noise. Hopefully we won't have anybody ringing the doorbell, and that would make a really loud noise. So I've only got 1 finished object, but and just 2 whips. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about my stash, as I said. So cool. Let's get started. My first finished object is actually kind of a surprise. I don't think I've ever talked about it on the podcast because I don't know if I just keep on forgetting, or I just decided not to because it was a gift, or I don't remember what it was. But it's actually a crochet finished object. It's a stuffed animal. So this is for my sister. This is a Chewy plushie. I forget the name of the pattern, but I will put my Ravelry in the description box below, and I will get a project page up with this guy on them, with the pattern and everything in it. So it's actually not supposed to be this size. It's a full plushie. It's actually bigger than it's supposed to be in the pattern because instead of using fingering weight, I held DK weight with a mohair. So you may be able to see this. This is the first time I've used a mohair, and you can kind of see how it gives the Chewy plushie that kind of fluffy halo. You can kind of see there from the mohair. So, and then I used a leftover fingering weight from my sister's hat as well, and then safety eyes, and then just some embroidery floss and yarn for the different facial features. But this turned out really well, or really great. She really enjoys it, and so yeah, I'm really excited about how this guy turned out. It's kind of my first real successful crochet plushie, and so it was really cool. And usually when I have made stuffies in the past, the stuffing has shown through, but not on this guy. So that's good. And I used, when you make plushies, you have to use a smaller crochet hook than what is typical, just so that the stuffing doesn't come through. And so what you do with this pattern is you kind of start from the head, and you do the entire body and then 1 leg, all in one piece. It's no sewing other than sewing on the arms is the only thing you sew on. And then you just work the second leg on to the other side of another opening. So you basically kind of split for the legs about here, and then you crochet down 1 leg and crochet down another. And then you have these really cool edges on the feet and on the arms as well. You have a little edge there from crocheting in the back loop only. And then this is actually added on afterwards. You make a little ridge and then you add it on afterwards to make this kind of scruffy beard sort of. And then you can make this bag, I kind of improv the bag because at that point I was just pretty much done. But she does have, in the pattern, the designer does have how to make a bag like she made. That's got like more gray to look more like a bandolier instead of just an orange bag like this one. So yeah, this turned out really great. I don't remember how long it took me to make this. I think I started this last fall sometime, maybe, or last summer sometime around there, and I just kind of stalled out. And then I actually finished to the bottom of one of the legs. I don't remember which one. And then I made the other leg, and then I kind of stalled out. So because I was like, I have to make, 2 arms. But the arms don't actually take that long. I think it only took me, once I got it down, it probably took me like 15 minutes or so to do an arm, because it's very small circumference, only a couple stitches. And then I just had to make the bag and the beard. So yeah, this guy turned out great. The yarn is Lolo Did It in, it's the Wookiee colorway. I always forget what it's called. Oh, Laugh It Up Fuzzball. That's her May the 4th collection, and it's Laugh It Up Fuzzball in USA DK and in Molo, which is her mohair. And I used half a skein of mohair and a full skein of the USA DK, but I actually bought 2 skeins of the Laugh It Up Fuzzball in USA DK. So I actually have enough leftovers to make another one, and I can't decide if I should just put this up on my Etsy, if you guys want to just buy this already put together to make a Chewbacca yourself. I don't know if this is enough orange because I don't remember how much I had to begin with, but this is about, I think it was 8 grams, so maybe enough to make a little bit of a smaller bag than what I have here. But this is enough mohair. Sorry, I hit the mic with Chewy. But this is half a skein of mohair and then a full skein, untouched skein of the USA DK. So I may put this up in my Etsy as like a kit, and then all you would have to do is buy the pattern, because I don't believe I can sell the pattern. That's not right. So I will leave a link to my Ravelry down below. If you can't access Ravelry, let me know, and I will see if she somehow has another way to purchase it, but I'm pretty sure that her pattern is only on Ravelry. But it's a really cool pattern. The pattern itself is not the greatest written. There were some things where I had to kind of just wing it, but it's in only a few places, and I may put, if I remember right what I did, I will put it in my my Ravelry. I'll put it in my project notes, and I'll also put what hook size I used for this guy, because the original is 10 or 7 inches, and this is probably like maybe 14 to 15, maybe 16 inches tall. So quite a bit bigger, and this is a good size. I would say this is a much better size than you would get with fingering weight. And probably this is more like a worsted-ish Aran, maybe. The weird weight that nobody really knows. Or is hard to understand where it sits. So yeah, this guy turned out really great. He does have eyebrows, which I don't think the pattern actually has him have eyebrows, but my sister said it looked weird without eyebrows. Oh, I also may put this pair of safety eyes in there as well, just in case you wanted to make this like for a child or something, and this would be safer. Or you can also just make your own with, you make like a magic circle. Yeah, it's complicated. It's not really complicated, but it's hard to explain, I guess, is more what I want to say. So yeah, I may throw in a couple of safety eyes with this kit and put it on my Etsy or something. If y'all are interested in that, let me know, and I can go ahead and get it set up before I'm going to be gone in the middle of the week to visiting family, and so it may be after that, but I'll try my best to get it up around the podcast so you guys can make your own Chewy plushie. But yeah, he turned out really great. I'm really happy with how he turned out. My sister's really happy with how he turned out. So I can't decide where I want to put him though. He's quite large. Alrighty, so that's my first and only finished object. Because I've been mostly crocheting blankets and stuff. Sorry, my hair's a little staticky, so but I've been doing mostly crochet blankets. One crochet blanket. I've just been kind of working on it. It's not really much to show, but I did start working again on my Advent blanket. It's not really an Advent blanket at this point, because I am just working on it when I want to, or at this point when I can, because I don't have any more of the plain white. I did order it, but it's like in Chicago still or something like that, so I don't quite have it at the moment, and so I've had to stop working on it. But I did get this 2023 stitch marker in my Yarnable subscription, and so I just put it where 2023 starts, which is at this first orange here. And so last time I showed you, it was at this blue. I had just finished off that last stripe with the blue because of the World Cup, and then I had to stop here halfway through, or part of the way through the row, because I ran out of the extra white, or the white I'm holding it with. And if you're new, this was my Advent for 2022. I just bought 3 orders of the row 1 subscription, which row 1 tells you that if you order more than one, they won't give you the same dyer, or if they do give you the same dyer, it'll be different colorways. And so I got 3 different packages of row 1 minis, and then every day in the month of December, I was supposed to every day in the month of December add a stripe in a different color that I picked randomly from my big bag here. And I did end up adding a mini of my own to make it 31. So there are 31 days in December. I'm pretty sure. Now that I say that, I'm doubting myself, but I'm pretty sure there are 31 days in December. Just when you say stuff to the internet, you're kind of like, is that actually right? And I ended up finishing it December 18th when I was watching the World Cup with my family. So I ended up finishing it way early, but it's because I enjoyed it so much. And then January 1st, I started with this orange, and then I've had to stop since, because I ran out of the white. But the minis that I'm using now is a kit I bought off of Destash. It's from Molly of a Homespun House for her Cozy Comfort Throw. It's a kit, and I have seen online, I don't know if you watched previous Vlogmas from December, you may have seen many podcasters doing the Cozy Comfort Throw, and they would use their Advent for it. So I figured I could do the opposite and use the Cozy Comfort Throw kit as an Advent, sort of, kind of. So yeah, and then I've got all these minis. I did go ahead and cake up all 42 of them, and they're all in this bag now. Let me just make it to where it's easy to see. You can see them all in there. So now I just pick from this bag at random again, and it's a mixture of variegated or speckled and more solid as well, kind of like my row 1. So yep, and these are all sock yarns. They're all of a similar base. I feel they're both the row 1 and the homespun house kit are 75/25, or similar, close. They both are merino nylon blends, so close enough for me. Alrighty, so my next whip is a cast on you've seen before, but it's in a new bag. This is my Musselburgh hat for my pappy. I've done quite a bit of work on it since you've seen it last, but I've kind of stalled out on it because I got like one of those, not a hole, but it's kind of like an indent, a divot in your finger from pushing the needle in. And so I did quite a bit of work on this. As you can see, it's very bright. It's very bright, like kind of orangey red. That's kind of really close to what the color actually is, just like not so crazy bright. It's pretty bright, but not that crazy bright. And so this is the stitch marker I had on there before. So last podcast I was probably up here somewhere, so kind of doubled it since then. And yep, this is the Musselburgh pattern. I did kind of like my own weird numbers for the pattern. I think it's closest to an adult large, but I think I've cast on more or I've increased to more stitches than even the adult large. Because for me, with Knit Pick Stroll, which is what I'm using, it's a much thinner yarn for me. For some reason, I get like a very tight gauge. It's almost like lace for me, And so you can see there the stitches are kind of really small for me. Like I can tell the difference just looking at it from like a sock. It's quite small compared to a normal sock yarn for me. So this is Knit Pick Stroll in the Buoy colorway. I have 2 skeins of this. I've already dove into my second skein, which is somewhere, you may actually be able to see, which is actually right there. You can kind of see the stitches look a little weird from when I wove in my ends as I went. So I'm only about an inch-ish into my second skein. And so I may not have to use all of both skeins, which is great because I can use it for socks. So yeah, that's this hat. Kind of enjoying it, although I did have to take a break from it because of my finger. And I am knitting this on a US size 2, which I believe is a little smaller than most. Most people probably, I've heard, will usually use like a 2.5 to a 3, and these are US terms as well. And I've just got ChowGoo red lace, my interchangeable set. Although I've been enjoying wooden needles more recently. It's very weird, but the thing is that wooden needles don't go down to a 2, or at least that I've found there's not a wooden needle that goes down to a 2. But yeah, the whole finger thing is kind of bothers me. But when I knit with my wooden needles, that doesn't happen as much because they're sharp, but they're not as sharp. And that's probably why I didn't like Hiya Sharps than that's probably why I haven't liked when I tried Hiya Sharp needles, that I didn't like them as much. Oh, also that was in a Bag by Awesome Granny. I think it's her medium size. And so it's got this ring for your stitch markers and then a handle. I usually use this for socks. That's why it's got all the stitch markers on it. But I don't really use that for the Musselburgh. I just kind of knit until I got about 10 grams left, and then I do decreases and on the other side. So then my second whip is actually a new one that I started yesterday, and it's in this bag by Amy of Noble Character Crafts. I bought this in her, not the previous update, not the update before then, but the update before then. It's actually the first update of hers that I shopped, and I got 2 bags, and this is one of them. I like using this one for socks and stuff. So I will talk about this in a minute, but what I'm doing is I am trying to work through my stash a little bit and make sure that I'm using even skeins that I've been saving that are special. You know, we all have that kind of special skein that you want to keep for the perfect project, but then sometimes, at least for me, they don't tend to get used. So I'm starting to work through those and make sure that if I want to make something, then I can order the yarn to get it. Kind of like Natalie of Knitty Natty. I really like the way that she's thinking about that, of like, if I want to make something, being able to go and buy the yarn for it instead of having to be like, I don't want to really buy yarn because I've got so much yarn in the stash. Now granted, I have quite a bit of smaller stash than she started with. I only have 26 skeins total, and that's counting 2 sweater quantities. So without the sweater quantities, I actually only have 16 skeins in stash, and that's counting 2 partial skeins. So as a half skein to get like a full skein together. One of them's a half skein from Mustache, and another one is a half skein from a skein of yarn that I knit socks from. So yeah, putting that aside, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is a pair of socks that I'm knitting for myself. It's using fingering weight yarn, but it's actually, I'm holding it double because I don't like fingering weight socks, at least for me. They kind of bother my feet. It's kind of like, it just doesn't feel good. It's not that it hurts, it just bothers me. So yeah, I'm knitting these also on a US size 2. I cast on 56 stitches. This is actually a mini from a sock set that does not go with this yarn. Again, I broke up a sock set. But this yarn is from Lavender Loom Yarn Co. If you remember, I did knit a hat out of a base of hers that was yak. This is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon. And it's in the colorway Immeasurable Strength. So this was the skein that I first chose randomly. I picked random skeins for each month of the year. Again, I'll talk about this in more detail in a bit. And I decided to go ahead and start my January one, which was this skein and this mini for it. which this mini matches perfectly, but this mini is actually from a different sock set. It's from Avita Lifestyle, I believe. I don't truly remember. I'm pretty sure it came from Avita Lifestyle. No, actually it's not. It's actually from Moonglow Yarn Co. I got a sock set of hers that was called Sweater Weather, or something like that. It was an orange skein that came with kind of a pale kind of cream, and then this brown and an orange. The orange being the full skein, and then the brown and the cream being minis. And so I thought that this brown matched the browns in the skein really well. It's kind of hard to see. I don't see any browns on the outside of the cake really, but there's some darker browns in this, more chocolatey browns in this cake as well. And so I think this brown will work great with it. So yeah, I'm making a pair of DK socks for myself, and I knit on a US size 2 ChowGoo DPNs, and this I will switch to 9-inch after the gusset decreases. And I forgot my train of thought. My train of thought just went blue. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, I cast on 56 stitches and do a 1x1 rib, and then I just go straight into the heel flap. And I do knit backwards for my heel flap. I've talked about this before, but for newer people, I don't turn my work when I'm working the heel flap. I actually knit backwards, and even the heel turn, I will knit backwards. I recommend teaching yourself to knit backwards for socks, because it's just a couple stitches, and then you're back knitting normally. And then I've actually gotten to the point where I can backwards knit pretty much as fast as I can forward knit, which is great for like sweaters or cardigans where you have to knit or purl. And it's about the same gauge as my knitting gauge as well, which is great because my purling is actually, I don't remember if it's looser or tighter, but I have to like change the needle size to make it the same gauge. So at least like this is a great fix for me all around. So yeah, that's my last whip actually that I have for today, and I can go ahead and talk to you guys about my stash stuff. So if this isn't your thing, I totally understand. If you were just here for the knitting, I will see you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. For the rest of you, it's just, I'm not talking about acquisitions. I'm just talking about working through what I have, because I have a lot of skeins and stuff that I enjoy. I just can't get to because of the whole exciting of finding a new skein on Etsy. So for those of you who don't or may not know, I don't normally shop new skeins. I actually go to Etsy or Ravelry and buy off Destash, because number one, you can get colorways that may not be sold anymore, and for another, they're usually sold at a discount. Sometimes not, sometimes they're sold at full price, but they're usually sold at somewhat of a discount. And also you're helping somebody else get rid of skeins that they don't necessarily want to use anymore, and then they don't end up in the trash, or in I don't know, mostly in the trash. So this allows you to get it's a win-win situation. They get rid of a skein that they don't necessarily want to use, or it's a leftover, and then you get a new skein to get to try and use for a project that you want to make. So anyways, I have this basket. You've seen this basket before. If you're a longtime viewer of this podcast, you will have seen this basket before. It is kind of my yarn basket, but during the fall, it's actually a centerpiece on our dining room table. So I have already opened the January one, but what I did is I put all of my yarn into a IKEA bucket thing that I actually got from Pier 1. It wasn't actually from IKEA. One of these guys. And I actually have all my skeins of yarn minus my sweater quantities, my 2 sweater quantities. So this is all the yarn I have. This is all the rest of the yarn I have besides what's in this basket. So so what I did is I put all the yarn that I have in here, and then I just kind of mixed it and then blindly reached in and pulled out a skein. And then that was what I put in these bags that I actually got from Yarnable. When you receive a Yarnable subscription, they give you the yarn in this bag, which is like, you can kind of see in there kind of the color, but not really. So that's what I used for my little plan of how to work through a skein every month. Words. So I already picked out from January through August, I think. Nope, September. Another month after that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of take it easy this year with knitting, because at the end of 2022 I kind of got burnt out on knitting and I just wanted to crochet. Like even into early of this year, I just now cast on a sock, which is usually pretty weird for me, and that's after not having a sock basically the entire month of December. I did not knit a pair of socks the entire month of December, which is kind of weird for me. After I started knitting socks, I've basically been knitting socks at least every month, if not multiple pairs a month. So I just kind of wanted to take it easy this coming year, because this year is going to get a little crazier with school and with work as well. And so I'm just going to hedge my bets on it's going to be busier than last year. So I'm going to give myself a little grace with how much I knit and just plan on knitting 1 skein of yarn a month, which for me is a very big decrease from what I usually do. I will usually knit maybe 2.5 on average a month. Sometimes some months it's more, some months it's less, and I'm going to try and do kind of what Natalie from Knitty Natty did, although I'm going to count half skeins. For me, half skeins, I usually consider them at the same level as full skeins. So I'm going to count those guys towards stash, and I've only got 2 half skeins at the moment that are in stash, and I'm not going to be counting stash that I'm trying to destash either. So, and it works exactly like Natalie's, is that once the yarn is skeined up and put into a project and is currently being worked on in a project, it gets removed from stash. So this guy, the skein in here, has been removed from stash. So I actually have 25 skeins in stash, including my 2 sweater quantities. Alrighty, so basically what I did is I picked out one for every month. This is the February one, and so you can kind of see I've got a skein of yarn in there, and then I've got a skein in each of these bags through to September. And so I'm hoping that that's just going to be what I'm going to do throughout the year, is whatever projects in this bag is going to be what I knit, but at the same time I'm not going to, prevent myself from being like, oh, I finished the project, the 10th, let's say. It's the 10th of January right now, but let's say I finished my project for January at the 10th of January and I want to knit something else. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't knit something else. I'm just going to pull from the skeins in that bucket instead of from these guys. These guys will stay in their bags. But yeah, and so I'm hoping that by the end of the year I will have reduced my stash to maybe a couple of skeins of sock yarn. I have pulled out like my Christmas yarn, yarn that I won't be using until a year from now, pretty much. I've pulled those out, or yarn that's for special occasions or for special reasons. Like I knit my dad a hat out of a specific kind of yarn that's not really being sold anymore, and so I bought a skein of it, a couple skeins of it. So if or when my dad's hat, is so worn out that it's not being used anymore, then I can knit my dad a new one, because he really likes that hat, and I would hate to say they don't make that yarn anymore. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for watching and commenting and interacting with me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate getting to talk to you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. If you have any suggestions for really anything, I am always willing to learn from you guys and interact with you guys as well. As much as this is more of a conversation instead of me teaching you, because I don't know everything about knitting. I've only been knitting for 6 years, something like that. Like, it's a long time, but not a long time, if that makes sense. Maybe 7 years. I don't remember when I started knitting, but yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.